Good morning on this Monday, the 6th of February. This is your 28storms.com update on Tropical Cyclone Jasmine as it continues to intensify in the Coral Sea. The good news is that Jasmine poses no threat to the Australian coast. As you can see here by the forecast from the Bureau of Meteorology, the cyclone is forecast to continue moving eastward, but this is problematic for potentially New Caledonia and the island nation of Vanuatu. They are forecasting the storm to strengthen into what they consider to be a Category 3 severe cyclone by the 7th of February, and the storm is forecast to continue moving east-southeast in the general direction of Port Vila. Fortunately, we do have some fairly good agreement between the two forecast agencies of the South Pacific. This is now the latest forecast track from the U.S. Joint Typhoon Warning Center, and they are forecasting the storm to strengthen to what would be a Category 1 typhoon by the 7th on 18Z, as the cyclone passes just toward the south of the capital city of Vanuatu. However, all interests across Vanuatu extending southward into New Caledonia are advised to keep up with the latest updates on this developing cyclone, as there is always that chance that the storm could shift a little bit toward the north or south of the current projected track, and we can see that the margin of error is still fairly significant as we go just a couple days into the future. The latest satellite imagery of the region shows that we have fairly tranquil weather currently across New Caledonia and Vanuatu, so this is a good time to be preparing for this potential cyclone landfall. And as we turn to the latest enhanced infrared, there are no signs of a well-defined eye wall beginning to develop with this cyclone just yet, but there is very intense convection developing directly over the center of the storm, so this is a good sign that the storm is intensifying. And as we switch to the latest water vapor, we can see that there is a fairly good environment above the storm in the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere. That is the main reason why we are seeing the fanning of the cloud tops, especially across the northern semicircle of the storm. It is a little bit more restricted to the south of the center, and that is mainly a result of this upper level low that you see passing just to the south of New Caledonia. But overall, this is a favorable environment for at least steady intensification. And for a more broad overview, we can look at the latest 72-hour running animation of the precipitable water analysis of the Coral Sea and South Pacific, and we can see especially toward the end of this animation, the cyclone is really beginning to tighten up, which is of course just another sign that this storm is continuing to gain strength. The following is the latest wind shear product from the University of Wisconsin, and we do see that little narrow swath of very light upper level winds, so that is suggesting that the vertical wind shear values are very favorable. And just toward the south, yes, we do have a little bit more in the way of vertical wind shear, and that is in association with that upper level trough and upper level low that is passing just south of New Caledonia. But overall, once again, this should be a favorable setup as the storm continues to move closer toward land. The sea surface temperature parameter is also just another thing that is going to support continued intensification for at least the next 2 to 3 days. As of right now, the cyclone is located in this general location, and as it continues to move toward the east or east-southeast, it should have no problem above very warm waters until it gets below 20 degrees south latitude, but by this point the storm will be moving away from Vanuatu and New Caledonia. In terms of steering, the cyclone is well embedded into this very strong westerly flow that we see present over much of the Coral Sea, and this is why we are highly confident that this storm poses absolutely no risk to the nation of Australia. But unfortunately, this is a different story here across the islands. The storm should continue to move in the same general direction, east-southeastward, and once again, it's too early to exactly pinpoint which exact islands are going to be facing the most threat from this system, but we will begin to narrow down this overall track as we get closer toward the approximate time of landfall. Also notice just toward the south, we do see this little cyclonic motion here, and this is in response to that upper level low that we saw on the water vapor satellite. And this upper level low is not going to be in much of a rush to head anywhere anytime soon. If anything, it's going to meander a little bit more toward the northeast, and this will help to induce more of a southeast turn as we go into the 3 to 4 day period. But once again, by this point, the cyclone will have already passed through much of the islands. Here is a look at the latest mid-level steering forecast from the ECMWF model, and you can see the rough position of our developing tropical cyclone just toward the south. This is the upper level low that we have noted throughout the video. As we go into day 1 and day 2, the storm is continuing to intensify as it passes just toward the north of New Caledonia. We still see this little brief upper level weakness toward the southeast, And finally, as we go into 72 hours, the storm is going to take more of that southeasterly turn due to this weakness that we see to the north of New Caledonia. And as we go into day 4, the storm is now beginning to weaken over cooler sea surface temperatures while moving southeast. We are also seeing fairly good model agreement between the ECMWF and the latest 12Z run of the GFS model. And here it is as I set this into motion. The cyclone is continuing to move eastward, and then it begins to turn more toward the south. Now, this is not going to be much of a threat at all to New Zealand. In fact, the storm is unlikely to even begin moving that far toward the south. Instead, it'll more than likely remain just toward the north and weaken considerably under much cooler water temperatures. And finally, the last model that we will observe is the latest 12Z run from the Canadian CMC model. And much like the GFS and ECMWF, this model has the storm passing just north of New Caledonia, followed by a turn toward the southeast. So as of right now, it's pretty unlikely that this storm is going to have a direct impact on Fiji in the long run. It looks like it will be able to pass just south of that nation, but all interests there are still advised to at least keep up with the weather forecasts over the next several days. So that is all for now from us here at 28storms.com. Please check the website often for more video updates.